The Son of Health Minister, Dr. Zweli Mkhize Dedani, has denied receiving money from the controversial Digital Vibes contract. Dedani says in his 6-year friendship with Digital Vibes director Tahera Mather, money was exchanged. However, he denied that any of their deals were connected to the contract. He also took a swipe at the Special Investigating Unit, calling it unprofessional. He says the organization never gave him an opportunity to respond to the allegations. Father and son are accused of benefiting from the alleged corrupt tender, with Dedani alleged to have received 3.8 million rand. To discuss what steps the president should take next, we are joined by political analyst Professor Barry Hanyane. Professor Barry, very good morning. Always good to speak to you. Interesting situation that is unfolding. Dedani has come out all guns blazing and saying that the SIU did not afford him the right or the opportunity for an interview.
Good morning, Hugo. Good morning to your viewers. Well, look, the taste is in the pudding, isn't it? Let's hope that this manuscript, it's not an old one that is being rehashed once again, wherein prominent members of the governing party are actually caught out from some kind of malfeasance, and they would come out and say, look, I've been victimized, my rights are at stake here. But what is interesting, a letter of this kind surfaces into the public at a time when the president is sitting with the final report. What this does, I suspect, is that it puts pressure back at the presidency, and it's up to the president now to sit down and say, do I have people that I can trust? How many of those who are close to him have benefited either directly or through members of their families? This is the case with the Mkhize saga, that in the thick of things, the son may have benefited. We will have to study that SIU report once it's made public. And of course, I take it that the NPA would have the appetite to prosecute where there's prima facie evidence that suggests otherwise.
Now, earlier I spoke to Professor Alex van den Heever, and one of the things that he spoke to was immediacy in dealing with situations of corruption. And he says, in an area where there is a sound governance, right, there is no time to play. Individuals would get fired immediately. Now, on the contrary, we seem to have a president who's very, very patient.
Hugo, I feel pity for the president, although, quite frankly, I would like to see some kind of stern leadership, a leadership that says that enough is enough. But there's a problem here. Nasrec did not give him the power that he sought. Secondly, he is not surrounded by your so-called lieutenants that would give it all without their credibility and integrity being put under check.
Sorry, Professor,
so what does this mean?
Sorry, Professor. I'm keen to hear you unpack when you say Nasrec did not give him the power or the mandate.
Well, there is a mandate, but it's not sufficient. Those who were on his side during the campaigning did not take up the strategic positions within the party itself. Look at the office of the SG. A pro-Zuma individual in the form of the suspended SG, Mr. Ace Mahashule, took that position, and that in itself is the engine of the party. You would imagine, Hugo, if that position was given to somebody who was outright a supporter of the Ramaphosa camp, this would strengthen his hand in actually implementing the much needed reforms, both in the party but also in government. So there are times when we need to separate both, but we understand that both are intertwined. So this is the problem that the president is sitting with. Worst case, a trusted lieutenant, I'm using that very carefully, in the form of Mr. Mkhize, is found wanting. So the next question is, who should the president trust going forward in order to carry the Nasrec mandate of dealing with issues of anti-corruption and reforms, both in the party as well as in government?
Now, in some quarters, they're saying that Dr. Zweli Mkhize is already packing his bags. The SIU has come up with a position which they've forwarded to the NPA, and their recommendation is obviously for prosecution.
Absolutely.
Where do you see Dr. Zweli Mkhize right now, firstly? And secondly, does this put further pressure on the president to act on Dr. Zweli Mkhize?
It's big. Unfortunately, it's now starting to be bigger than the Mkhize saga, the Mkhize question. It now borders on the issue of cabinet reshuffle itself. And at a time when there's serious turmoil at Lutuli House, the office of the SG is not occupied. Then, of course, there's all sorts of allegations surfacing that staff are not being paid. So to summarize there, Lutuli House is probably in disarray. Then there are other issues of factionalism deepening in the party. But then to come back to your question directly, the issue of reshuffling cabinet supersedes the Mkhize issue. I don't want to downplay the Mkhize issue because remember, he occupied a health portfolio at the time of the spread and transmission of COVID. We need strong leadership. And of course, kudos to the acting minister who has at least held the fort quite well. We're seeing an increase in vaccinations and the sites thereof, some kind of stability, but it's not permanent. So it then activates the argument. When are we likely to see a reshuffle? A reshuffle, obviously, that has a hallmark of some kind of influence from the alliance, which does not, again, make life easy for the president.
But what does the president do? I mean, at some point, obviously, you have to take sides, or you have to call the shots. Almost in every illustration we've had where there's been some form of corruption, he's chosen the route of waiting for due process, so to speak.
Yeah, because he doesn't have the power. Nasrec, once again, I'm going back to that position, did not give him an outright majority. He is not supported by like-minded individuals. These are individuals who saw an opportunity to say, I want to belong in the top six. But rightly so, there are huge gaps ideologically and otherwise in that top six. And you want that consensus, you want that unity, so that it is able to spill over positively into the reform of government. In this instance, the executive, which is the cabinet. So the president is not enjoying that comfort zone, that leeway, that sense of flexibility outside of the alliance itself. How much power does he have now? If you go back to the appointment of his own cabinet, he took 2 hours beyond the scheduled time to announce candidates, and some kind of reason was fashioned. My understanding was that the other partners in the alliance had a hand in the selection and picking up of individuals that we see today. Some individuals are so-called recycled leaders, and it's quite disturbing at a time when meritocracy, both politically and administratively, is sought in this country to strengthen and give us a strong leadership.
Professor Hanyane, final question. We've picked up from Dedani and his posts on Twitter, and there are quite a number of them. And one of the things that he says is, I'm my own person. I don't need my father to get involved. I've had a relationship over many years with the individual that is Tahera Mather that is concerned, and we have exchanged money. That has absolutely nothing to do with the digital vibe saga. My question is, in him trying to create a separation between him and his father, is he potentially worsening the situation for the suspended health minister?
No, it does. It does. And I think, once again, this is a trademark of leaders who are able to broaden their influence to include family members. From the United States during the Trump office, the son allegedly may have benefited because of the influence that the father has. Same with the previous president in this country, Mr. Zuma. it's possible that the nephew may have benefited because of the close proximity. Once again, we see the same hallmark here. So going forward, to what extent should senior government officials who are linked to the governing party stay clear of using family members for undue influence and then, of course, to benefit out of that? So it's going to be difficult for the son to paint a picture that says, here lies integrity, here lies clean relationship, when the father already is in an area where a tender was issued. I don't see this one going down well.
Professor Barry Hanyane, always great to speak to you.